to talk about. So I'm here to tell you something about how research goes on and what are actually journals and what do they include, what are papers, how do you read them, and what do you need in order to read them, how difficult is it, what is actually your perspective, what perspective you should have in order to understand the paper, and what are the different types of paper you should start with. All these things we'll discuss now. So I'll just start up. So I'll welcome you all to the journal club. I wish it'll be more helpful in this way. Okay, so starting with this. So what actually mean is what do we think is research, right? Can anyone tell me? Anyone can tell me what is research? What do you think is research? Am I
Studying
audible?
deeply about a particular topic.
Sorry, can you repeat the first word? I didn't get you.
I think research is something where we study deeply about one particular subject or topic as such.
Yeah, absolutely. You're correct, but that is more like a definition. It is a good definition actually too. We do something very deep. So deep is something here very highlighted in the research. So is anyone others interested in telling about their perspective of what is research?
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
So like research is like revisiting previously developed concepts and topics or any certain topic, and actually creating new ideas or like creating out new concepts out of that, or new conclusions, something that was never like thought of before, something like that.
Yeah. Sure. You're correct. Absolutely. Anyone else, or shall I tell my perspective?
Yeah. Research is like getting into deep into a particular topic and doing whatever possible thing. It's not just studying but also analyzing, getting data, whatever possible thing we can do related to that topic, and to completely understand to our maximum extent. That is research.
Yes, absolutely. Like very good one that was. Yeah. So in my perspective, what research is, something you reinvent which already is there in this world. We reinvent, that doesn't mean that it is already existing and you're using it and you're reinventing. That doesn't mean that as a reinvention. You can say you're not seeing it actually, but it is present. You're reinventing that part of thing is research. So research is like two kinds of research we can say. One is something called extended research. Like suppose, for example, Einstein had made E equal to mc square, and you want to do some, you want to extend that part of his idea. So that is an extended research. And what you all said is very true. Like every point is a continuation to the every point. So another type of research is you come up with a new idea. Like Max Planck has come up with something called quantum mechanics, which is highly in contrast with classical mechanics. And I can come up with something called something mechanics. So that will be a new idea. It might not be possible, but I'm just, I want to make you understand that idea is something that is important in research. Maybe it may be a extended one or a new idea. What you think is very important. So what do you want to, what do you have to do actually to get an idea? You don't get an idea like a bulb, right? We see in animation. That doesn't happen in the real world. So how do you get an idea? You will get an idea by studying the papers of people who have already published something. Like Einstein had made E equal to mc square, and all these things. That is the reason why we are being pressured up in studying from schooling to the masters, right? These are all required to understand what is research. These are all the stepping stones to the research actually. But there are so many other branches that we usually deviate without coming to the part of research. So what happens in the research is that in order to get an idea, what the first thing you have to do is something called literature survey. Literature survey is after you get an idea. So in order to get an idea, you have to just go through some articles or papers. Like if you want general knowledge, what we will do? We'll go with some papers, newspapers, the Hindu, the most famous research paper, most famous newspapers and daily magazines, daily apps that we have in phone, right? We use them. In the same way, to get an idea, we also need to go through different blogs, read some articles, see some YouTube videos, animations, in order to get a complete idea of what actually is happening. So this is getting an idea. What after idea? Suppose you get an idea of doing something, you have to do a survey. Survey means you have to do like who all has done something related to this idea, who has come up with the same idea, because you will not be the only one who has this idea, right? There may be a coincidence, so you may compare or you may correlate with the person who have already done research in this part of thing. At least you can extend his research part. So you will add all those points, all those people who have already done based on your idea. So you'll take up as a reference. That is called research survey. So that is called literature survey. So after literature survey, what happens is that you have to get a proper analysis. Like what should you do actually? What is your idea? What are the questions that you have in your idea? What all you have to come up with? What is the equipment you are using in order to achieve your idea or implement your idea? So for all this, you should have like an ocean of prerequisites. That is the reason why you will be exposed to so many practical and theoretical experiments in your bachelor's and master's. Research is all about the literal meanings. Like research is doing search multiple times. That is research. The same way, literature survey in the word literature, it has its own literal meaning. Literature in the sense something that is the core of something. That is literature, right? Like we have literature for our languages. For Telugu, for English, for Hindi, we have some literature. The same way, the idea that we are coming with has some core basic thing that we have to look upon. So for all these to implement, we need so much of knowledge. Not like so much of knowledge, you have to have a fundamental knowledge in order to be eligible to do research. It is really very important. That is the reason why you have been exposed to so many things in until your master's. So what after your prerequisites has happened, and what after everything has happened, and you have put everything on a paper, like what all you have to do in order to implement your idea. Then comes something called a plan to do your research. Then you do a research proposal to some supervisor. That comes under the academic stuff. But your idea is finally getting into the implementation part. After the implementation part, there is something called design seminar. What do you do in the design seminar is you will go around certain people. Like certain people in the sense audience, you'll go to them and you say that this is my idea. I'll be using all these things. I'll use this equipment in order to get this. I'll use this kind of theorem. I'll use this kind of formula and all these things in order to just implement my idea. That is the whole purpose of the design seminar. You are designing your research idea. That is what it is. Then after this, what happens is that you'll publish something. What is publishing? Publishing is something, the idea you want to implement, you have to write it on the paper, and it should be so much convincing to the readers who want to understand what you are doing in research. So there comes this journal part, there comes this article part, and where this journal thing start up is this place in the publishing part. So what journals are, it is a platform where you can write and where you can expose yourself to the audience, showing your idea or talking about what you want to do about your idea. So that is the whole purpose of journals. It is just a platform of publishing your papers of articles, whatever the terminologies. So usually the terminology that we encounter in daily life is that what is a research paper and what is a research article. Research paper is something that is something called progress research. During the progress season, you will make something called research paper, wherein you already know the theoretical part, how to do it, but you are doing the experimental things are making up. Like the movie team releases the trailer before the movie launch, right? That is same like a research paper. So usually research papers are presented at the presentation part. They're not like published in journals, because journals are like more like an article thing. Articles like newspaper articles, they are like hardly 1 to 2 pages, maybe 3 to 4 pages. Some journals also extend their view up to 10 to 20 pages, because the scope of the work is like that, and the research paper itself will be like 1,000 to like that. So very big paper it will be. So the article can be at 10 pages. They'll accept that, but it should be so standard. That is a constraint there. So in presentations, what we'll do is you can, or else you can also do a PPT like I am doing. This isn't a research paper, but what happens in a paper presentation is that you will usually bring some model, or you bring some charts or something which you can physically show. So most people use their PowerPoint presentations to present their papers. So it is easy to be understand to the audience. So publishing in journals is for everyone. So this is where journals come. We'll talk further about it. And after journals, what is this thing? This is called thesis, wherein the research paper includes the main research paper, which is thesis. It includes in this part. And after submitting this thesis, then this goes to the submission part, and peer reviewing is something will be coming, and they'll see that. We'll come to that shortly. So what after this? Yeah. So these are a few journals, like important journals that have lately made people come into limelight about their brains, their knowledge, and all. So the most first thing which is to your right is an Albert Einstein's paper, which was published by some publishing company. So all these publishing companies, what do they produce something called magazine. It can be called as a magazine. It can be also called as a journal. Journal is a fancy word which actually confines only to the academic papers or academic papers or academic stuff like that. So I've kept it in this order of from 1800s to the latest one. So this is a paper from Albert Einstein where he have wrote this relativity and all in his paper. And there is another one called Pramanam, which is very much famous back those in 2010s and all, where Indian Academy of Sciences has produced this journal. Like it comes every week to the libraries of the institutions and universities, where people can directly see the journals and read through the articles. Then again, there came this journal of specific astrophysics and astronomy, which has been coming from 2010. It also is being continued till now also. It is backed up by Astronomical Society of India, which is very nice actually. You will find all kind of standards, like from the basic ones to the higher end ones. You can see all of them in this journal. Like very good journals you can refer to. So we'll come to something called peer reviewing and non-peer reviewing. What is it called? So what happens when you publish a paper is that during publishing, you write something, some paper, what you want, what idea you want to implement, right? So while you are writing, not while you're writing, after you write, there is something called peer reviewing, where peer is someone who is an expert in understanding research papers. What he does is he reviews your paper like a movie review. It is like a movie review, but something called peer reviewed papers, what happens is that it is more like a standard one. Like if someone has a stamp of very well known scientists who have reviewed this paper, it will be having more exposure into this society than a non-peer reviewed papers. Non-peer reviewed papers are like mostly self-published ones. Like you go into some website, you post your paper, and it will be there. it can also be peer reviewed. It may not be also it may not also be peer reviewed. So that is peer reviewing is mostly like people who already know how to review a paper. Like what they will do is they will point out certain points in your paper. They will tell you can do this, but you can do this part a bit more better. They'll suggest you some things. So the more reviews you get, the more exposure you get to the articles in the audience point of view. So for all this to happen online, if it has to go on online, Google Scholar is the most affordable and most handy thing in the current trend, wherein most of the researchers, what they'll do is they'll have a Google account and they'll just post their article or paper, which will go on to the which will go on to the media, and people can, if I am a peer reviewer, I can go into Google Scholar and see the feed who has published something. If I know the subject, I can peer review it. If I don't know, I cannot also peer review it. But everything is in one place. Not just that, Google Scholar is used in that way. Most of the literature surveys are used in Google Scholar. So if you can permit me, and if I'm not boring you, I'll show you something. In Google Scholar, what happens is that if suppose I want to do something on relativity equal to mc square. So if I type something Einstein energy mass relation in the Google Scholar, you'll get all the articles that are present, that are in this world, like all who have published their things on mass and energy relationships, what all people have done. Like there may be a review paper, there may be a concept paper, there may be a research paper indeed also. So that is what it is important in Google Scholar. It is like very much user friendly. You can also sort them by like this years also. If you know something specific, like if you're in a university and you are unable to access some specific journal about a specific paper, or if it has already been sold to someone else, you can directly go into Google Scholar and search for them. If I am going to the first one, you can see here. So this is an American Journal on Physics, wherein you can see the complete journal here. You can see the abstract, the references that the author has took in order to present this paper. I'll come to this format type also in couple of minutes. So this is how Google Scholar happens to be. So after this thing, we'll come to the types of papers. Like there are so many kinds of papers, because there are so many kinds of papers, because it all depends on what kind of paper you want to write. What is your idea? It depends on your idea. If suppose you are writing something that is dependent on the statistics of this world, there will be something called analysis paper. You can write your own, you can create your own type of paper. You can write an analysis paper and directly go on write some analysis, only analysis, pure analysis. You cannot, you may not write the abstract, you may not write the references. If you have your own idea, if you are having your own references, you may not write all those. You can create your own paper. Like if you are so much keen about what you're doing. But mostly what we encounter, what we have to learn in order to start understanding research papers are something called review papers. What are review papers is mostly review papers are like concept paper. When will a review paper be in this world is that it is a stage when a person is stepping, he's in his initial stages of his research, and he's starting to understand his idea. He's starting to develop his idea. So that time interval, he has given this review paper. He'll be giving his review paper. So what happens in a review paper? We'll see an example. I've got some review paper, which is a kind of interesting one. I'll share it with you. So anyone has any doubts, or anyone want to add something?
For peer review, the person must be an expert in the field for.
Yeah, because that is intuitive, right? If you are reviewing a paper is something written by already a research scholar, and you are reviewing it, means that you should be above him, right? You should understand. You should be in the place where you can understand the person who is writing. You should also understand the topic he is writing. You should understand the kind of paper he's writing. So that actually means he should be an expert, at least an expert. Expert means at least an experienced one. Yeah.
So how does somebody register to be a peer?
Like it depends on the place you are doing this peer reviewing. Like if it is in the Google Scholar, even a person who is publishing the paper can also review a paper. Who is yeah, he can review a paper. He can give, and the person will be a peer reviewer automatically. Like Quora or this thing, if someone asks doubts, anyone can answer, right? The same way it happens in Google Scholar also. But if it comes to the journals part, there are people who are called editors, wherein they will do the peer reviewing. People from institutions of prominent people from prominent institutions like Harvard University, who have experienced knowledge in doing research, they'll be asked to do this editing part of the journals, wherein when paper comes to them, they'll do this peer reviewing, and then they'll publish. Then they will publish into this journal. They'll not directly publish into a journal. That is the reason why journals are so standard and very important to this thing. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Editors can be from any university or institute. It can be also an independent person also. It's going great. Good videos to learn more about paper and get organized. Session also contains some details. Yeah, not like different types of paper. I can mention the different types of papers. I don't know I'll have another session or not, but I can also add some different types of papers here. Like there are so many types of papers. As I said, you can create your own type of paper. Not like creating is like, it should be standard. You should maintain that standard of creating your own type of paper. There are like analysis paper. There is like review paper, report paper, monographs. There is a research paper. And what else? There is a statistical paper wherein there are only graphs that will go on to publishing. But if only graphs are going for the publishing, like how much graphs should tell the reader? Just by seeing the graph, the reader should understand what he wanted to tell. That kind of graphs will only go into those papers. Like, so there are so rare kind of papers. But most probably what we encounter is these three things: review paper, report paper, and report paper. Not this is just a report and a research paper. You can also say memos. Memos are also available. Like it differs from the place to place also sometimes, if I'm not wrong. I'll also give sources at the end of this session, so you can also go through different kinds of papers and the differences between different kinds of papers. Like I've said, the differences between paper and article, right? There are so many differences between different kinds of papers and articles. You can also go through this. I'll just give you those sources. So I'll start up with this an example of a review paper. This. Is my screen visible? Can anyone tell me?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. So this paper is published by International Astronomical Union in 2008. So in that journal, this thing has published. So this is a review paper. So how do you know something is a review paper? Not just that a review is written here, but usually review papers are so short and research papers are so big. Yeah. So what happens in a review paper? Technically, what happens in a review paper is that most of your understanding about your idea and the concept that is required for your idea, and what are the questions that are you going to deal with in a in your idea are important in the review paper. So what happens is that firstly you will write an abstract. An abstract is something very shortened form of your idea representing in the word form is an abstract. So in this kind of paper, what the author is doing, these are all authors. These two people are authors, and they are from this place. Why I'm highlighting this part is this is the format of a review paper wherein this will be given by the journal, whoever is publishing this thing. This will be given by them, the first page break line. So after that, from the title, this is something that you are going to design. So from the starting of the title to the ending of the full stop, everything should be interesting and it should be precise, and it should not contain so many fancy words, because containing fancy words at the worth of lagging things isn't very good in a research paper or a review paper, any kind of paper, because it is all about reader. You should be convincing the reader about your idea, right? So from in the starting, he has given a small title which is very interesting. Maybe the core idea he has took. So in this is how they'll write the author names and where are they from, and their contact details. And after that, they'll come up with an abstract. So as I said, what is an abstract? They'll come up with their idea, what they want to talk about in this paper is an abstract. And keywords are so important because keywords are something that author want to stress up while you are understanding a paper. Understanding a research paper is so difficult, and review paper is difficult. Difficult in the sense that it depends on the perspective the reader is reading in. If you are in the perspective that how author wanted you to understand, that is an easy task. But if something with a different mindset, if you are reading a paper, that will be difficult. That is the reason why I'm saying it is a difficult part to understand research paper. It is very easy actually. You can go through and you can read, but you have to connect with the author. That is important. That is the reason why he'll be giving keywords wherein he wanted to stress upon those words. The reader wants to understand those words and then go into this paper. So how this thing happens in a review paper is that firstly there will be an introduction, and then introduction can have anything. Like he has to introduce his idea in the first point. After introducing his idea, he has to come up with what all tasks he want to acknowledge, or he want to see in his idea, and all will be in his introduction. After the introduction, there'll be the literature survey. They won't mention something called literature survey in the review paper, but it means it is a literature survey, which means that a particular scientist or a particular research scholar has already done this, or he's already doing it. He'll take up that reference part and keep in his paper, saying that he has done all this, and I want to extend this part of his idea in this way. This is all the main body of the review paper. Like you can see, the first one in this paper, what he has done is that he has introduced what he all wanted to tell the reader. So he started with the questions, like what kind of questions he want to answer at the final, the ending, in the conclusions part. So he came up, how did Milky Way form, and he started like that. You can see that how did the Milky Way form, and after that what all equipment has already been used in order to understand how Milky Way has formed, and how I will also share this paper with you, so you can also go through this paper. This is mostly a basic paper. You can understand, you can go through. So in this thing, the equipment he has used in the past by the people who have already gone through this idea, this core basic idea which people wanted to implement. So he wanted to extend something of this idea. So he is introducing with the questions. So all these questions were already answered. So what he is asking is that he wanted to tell what all are important in order to know Milky Way formation, or the galactic bulge, as he has already said in title part, right? Title part suggests the galactic bulge. So he came up with the galactic bulge, and he has come up with a few questions, what all he wanted to encounter. So these are few questions. and then he'll come usually in a review paper. As I said, it will be mostly a combination of a conceptual thing and his theoretical analysis of what he wanted to do. We can say that for a review paper. So then for, as I said, it should be a combination of concept and analysis, theoretical analysis, right? So for the concept, what are all the prerequisites that are important for something to understand is very important, right? So that is the reason why he come up with all the concepts that are needed to understand the galactic bulbs and what all kind of research has happened on galactic bulbs by using different kinds of equipments and different kinds of papers that he has gone through, and all these things will be written in this thing. So not just the concepts thing will be included, but also the technical mathematical part of this thing can also be included if it has so much importance in your paper. If you want to really implement, if you want to really include your mathematical theorems or formulae in this kind of research review paper or research paper, it should be so accurate, and it should be so accurate that you will be using this particular kind of formula or theorem. So what happens in a review paper is they directly give their equations, or they'll directly give their formulas. Like in this thing, Vmax by sigma, this thing has been given in this, right? You have to, in order to understand these things, you will have to again go back to the resources to understand this. Like you can Google these things and you'll understand what all is happening here. So that is how you'll understand a research paper. That is one of the ways you can understand, actually, because not everything will be included in a review paper, because it is just a review what he wanted to implement, how he wanted to implement. So you can also use some graphs and all. In order to understand these graphs, how will you understand is that you will see between what parameters are these graphs developed. For example, in this thing, I can just zoom up. So this graph is describing about the kinematics of the galactic bulbs, right? At the center, at this part of the center of the galactic bulbs, they found more data points. So that is the reason why it is concentrated, right? That is what happens in a graph when you plot between two different parameters. Yeah. So every data points that are being imposed in this review paper, you have to see about what kind of parameters they are using. So if you go through those parameters individually, like you can Google the parameters and you can understand how the graphs works. Then you come into this review paper, again read the review paper, then you will understand what author wanted to tell you. If you have something not understanding the review paper in some part, you can directly skip the part and go to the next subject what he wanted to tell. That way, if you go into the deeper levels, then you can understand the starting what he has introduced, right? Like even though you are not understanding a part of the movie in the beginning, you don't exit the movie and come out, right? You will see the movie and then you will correlate things, what has happened in the climax and what will happen in the introduction. That is how confusing the director will showcase his movie, right? The same way, the author in the review paper or research paper will also do the same thing, or he'll have to do that in order to tell the reader. So what in the review paper, if you are writing a review paper, what are all important is that whenever you're writing something, you have to write its references, what you have to write, where you have taken this graph from. If it is independent work which you have done, you can skip the reference part because it is not related here. So you can write like this thing, because in this is the figure 2, right? They have right number of density of RR like type AB in the inner bulbs versus galactocentric distance from a clock at all. Right? All these things can be it should be mentioned in the review paper, because it is very important for someone who has to understand your graph. So you can start with the figure numbers in order to understand the above graphs or the data points plotted. And so all these after coming to these things, they will take a reference point, something, if it is a galactic bulge, so they'll take a reference point, something called a globular cluster, and they'll go to that point and they'll see how this galactic bulge is happening in this part of this globular cluster, and how the bulge is impacting the stars in this thing. Not impacting stars exactly, because of the way the globular clusters are formed. You can take the initial ideas from how the behavior or the properties of the globular cluster is behaving. You can describe the bulge, kind of bulge. It isn't that easy, but there is so much research going on how a bulge is correlated with the globular cluster system, and everything that is related between a bulge and a globular. Bulge is something, it has a geometrical interpretation, like if there are so many globular clusters above the Milky Way line. See, I'll show you. See, this is a bulge, right? So if you can see the center part, which is white, we'll say usually that is a supermassive black hole, and the bulge around it, mostly the part above the Milky Way straight line, are globular clusters. Globular clusters are the oldest stars that are in groups at one place. That is usually globular clusters. So you can study a globular cluster because they are already old. You can understand their properties, and you can correlate with the younger stars, how they will behave in their near future. And all these things will be decoded from globular clusters. Globular clusters are the most easiest way to understand the behavior of a star formation. So that is the reason why they'll be taking most of the data from globular clusters. So they'll be, see, as I said, you can also understand the galactic bulge, and you can also understand the age and the properties, the chemical composition, and everything from globular clusters, and correlate with the bulge, because the bulge is decided with respect to the globular clusters, because globular clusters is something, number of globular clusters will decide the size of the bulge for different kinds of Milky Ways and all.
I feel like sleeping on this bed only. Oh no. I'm sitting here because I don't want to sleep. But here also I'm feeling.
Sorry, anyone asking a question? I am not getting. Am I audible? Am I clear? So far, so good.
You're audible. Yeah, you're audible. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so this is a review paper, something which happens like this. So what I should understand from this, I have just understood the basic part of the review, like the theoretical part. I haven't gone through this graph yet. I have been recently going through this review papers. So recently, I've been going through this review papers like a month to 2 months ago. So it took so much time to decide to get on one particular paper to understand. We'll sit and understand this kind of paper. It is very hard even to decide what kind of paper you want to read. But since the title and the starting parts are interesting, you can go through things. I don't know how much hard it will be in order to understand these figures, because they aren't easy. If you are starting to understand how these graphs behave and how they came up, then you can say you are on the line of understanding how research papers work. And these are all what we have to understand. And all these figures came up from data points that are collected from different equipment, and they're directly plotted using different kind of software. Like from radio astronomy data, we use CASA, right? And for you can also use actually MS Excel for the from archival data. You can take the data points and directly keep in Excel, and you can directly give it a try. You'll get an intensity time graphs usually, by which you'll understand the age of a star, like that. So it happens actually. The basic of plotting data points starts from there actually. So most of the high-end software will give this kind of accurate data line. So all these graphs and the mathematical part is something that I'm left with to understand. I can only understand the headlines for right now. I can only understand the headlines of what is happening inside this review paper. So why am I stressing on this review paper? Because it is a review paper and it should be understood in that way only. Because a research paper contains so much in different categories. Like for in order to understand a literature survey, you have to understand the total research paper, like research idea. You have to understand what the author's idea he wanted to implement in his research paper. Then you can go to the literature survey what he has given. So understanding someone's research paper, review paper or research paper is very can be very easy when you go through the references. In this paper, they have given so many references here. You can go through all these references and read some of those papers, and you can also conclude what you wanted to do on this. If you have already gone through so many references, you'll already coming up with an idea, right? Because every research paper or review paper will have an idea, will have some questions that are not being answered, because every discovery will have a limitation, and the limitation can be extended always. So that is how research goes on in this world. If you are coming up with an idea, that is even more great, because someone can extend your research. Yeah. So in this review paper, anyone have any doubts, or if anyone want to add something or correct what I'm saying?
Well, I do have a doubt.
Yeah.
Does the author is restricted to some kind of format for writing any kind of paper?
Okay.
Yeah. So do we have
No.
to follow a particular format? Like we cannot use italics or bold in the text somewhere.
No. You cannot directly use those kinds of things, because actually, why do we not use it? Because author has to have this flow of understanding what you have already been writing, right? Because what all you are writing is already something which is very big. Someone who has bigger understanding about what is your idea, he will only understand what you are writing. So if you're already including this bolds and italics in between, he'll be deviated in the first place. That is a logical thing in the way that we can keep in front of understanding. But usually, why don't we use italics and bold? They are already given a specific purpose when they are using. Italics is used when when you want to differentiate between something and something, because you'll not. For example, I can tell you, if you are writing a review paper wherein we are telling v is a velocity. For example, you are using v as a v letter for velocity, and you are also at the end of the research paper, in the middle of the paper, you are also introducing something called frequency, where you have to do new. But when you're writing, when you don't have a new in your keyboard, what will you do? What is the next step? What you have to do? You'll use italics, right? So italics is used in that way. You can write italic v, which will differentiate it from normal v, right? That is the reason why we use italics. And for the bold ones, why we use bold is that if you want something to highlight that part of thing, if in this figure 8, CMD is for 3 macho MSHO fields along the bulge minor axis. All these things can be abbreviations, right? MSHO and CMDs or abbreviations, right? So for abbreviations, you use bolds. If you use bold in between sentences, it may be termed as an abbreviation. The reader might think that way, or you are stressing something that is not unimportant in order it is being making the reader deviated. So that is the reason why we don't use these kinds of things. We'll also stick up to something some standard fonts also, like Times New Roman, Calibre, Arial. These are some standard ones, like everyone will get it. Like even though if someone downloads a paper, it won't get into some other thing if you styled up fonts. That is the reason we'll have a format, which is very important, because you are giving with respect to the reader, right? So that is. Anything else?
Excuse me, I had a doubt actually. Is it true that we need to use colors which are friendly for colorblind people as well while plotting graphs?
Yes, you can do that actually. You can do that. It will be more helpful. Yes, you're right. But if some colors have to depict, suppose for example, if you're using a green color, if it is green, if the green color is depicting to some particular thing, you can use green. You cannot go with the uh, other colors which are friendly with the color blind people. You can do color blind friendly colors also you can use, but if you are constrained to some colors only because of the data you are getting, you can also do that. That isn't a problem. You can also mention below the graph it is this blind color blindness friendly graph. You can also do that.
I actually couldn't understand the example that you gave, like green color, that part, that was a bit confusing.
Okay. So what I was saying is that if there is something statistical data in a paper that is representing the cultivation of this particular land, for example, so it should be represented in a green dotted line, which have already mentioned in the starting or the ending acknowledgement, not acknowledgements, at the ending bibliography or something like that. If you're mentioning like that, it can be used that way. It isn't a problem because using colors that are friendly for color blindness people is an extra add-on. That isn't so compulsory. It is your wish. But if you're going to a standard journal, maybe they might keep a constraint of this thing what you have told. You can use that.
Asha, all right. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So I'll continue. So from here, after what the author has completely told what his idea is about and what he wanted to find and what all people has already found about his idea, all those things will be written in the main body part of this review paper. And after that, he'll come up with the conclusions, like the answers that he has found from the literature survey he has been doing in order to implement his idea. So all these things will be written very clearly. It should be mentioned very clearly in the review paper, because the review paper is something that is very important before you publish a research paper, because a review paper can be put on beside a research paper and you can also acknowledge your own review paper in your research paper, saying that I've already mentioned all these things in my review paper, so that I can directly use these things in your research paper. You can also do that. Your review paper will be your own reference paper also. It can be this thing. So that is the reason why everything should be so clear and precise and accurate. So future scope is after this, future scope is something very commonly seen in review papers, because these kind of easily understandable formats these kinds of papers will be more user friendly for people who want to begin with understanding review papers and research papers. This will be more friendly for people who want to understand, like these kind of stereotypical formats, we'll say. And these that is the reason why I've taken this research. I chose this research paper from 2008 journals. Like all the journals that are coming lately, they don't follow all these stereotypical things, because their research is so standard and the equipment that I've used is so standard that they are dominating the format they are using. Like I've said, you can also create your own type of research type of paper, right? The same way they are doing that, you can also do your own format, but it shouldn't disturb the way that things has to do. It should be, in order to understand a review paper, you can also use the references which author have already used. Interesting, and directly go to Google Scholar and you can directly search this thing and you find it. It is that easy. Most of the research scholars and most of the research will be happening in this Google Scholar only. It is a very good platform to start with understanding research papers. Like you can publish to 3 to 4 after getting a confidence. You can also you can go to the journals and publish, because going to journals and publishing a research paper takes more time, because it should be peer reviewed, it should be edited, it should be written in this type of format, and again it will be given to you to edit and to make your idea more better, more convincing to the reader. In all these things will happen for year end to only your research review paper will not be publishing in these times, so it will be a more problematic. So that is the reason why these self-publishing things have boomed in. So self-publishing isn't bad, but it is a beginning of what you want to make people understand. Yeah, self-publishing is very important for people now. It has become important because journals are demanding for more standard kind of papers. So if you have to go there and understand this thing, yeah, you need to already have an experience of publishing at least a small concept paper, right? So it is where this comes up. So this is it. This is about my review paper. This is in my review paper, about my understanding to a review paper. Yeah. So anyone else any doubts? Oh, okay. Sorry. I don't know about this time constraint. Sorry.
Hey, I think that you did a great job. This is Shanmukh, right?
Yes.
Okay. Nice, man. Good review. So just out of curiosity, how long did you take to read the full paper?
Like, yeah, I said I took 2 months to understand the starting core thing.
Oh, so you've been reading this particular paper for a while now, is it?
Yes.
Okay, very interesting. Nice. So is this something related to a project that you're doing elsewhere, or is it just something you wanted to do a review of?
No. I'm just starting to understand this review paper, so that in order to get to my idea, in order to get something idea about what research I want to do.
Okay,
this is
wonderful.
That initial stages of getting an idea.
Yeah, I think you did an excellent job. So I think people here who were unsure about what the journal club is for, this is precisely what it is, and this is why we recommend reading a single paper, and even reading a single paper per week is actually a higher frequency. But we don't recommend such an in-depth analysis because. When you're trying to just understand or get a feel for a subject, it's better to go slightly wide and then get pick up important concepts from 5 to 6 different papers, right? So then you understand, okay, in general, what is the some of the trending research problems in this particular subject. So you get to learn a lot. So yeah, but nonetheless, one per week is good enough because this is you have to understand it at least in certain amount of depth. So good job, Shanmukh. Maybe you can even write out a paragraph about how maybe best practices while trying to read a paper or understand a paper. What do you omit? What do you pay attention to? What do you do if you don't understand a paragraph at all and it's not making sense? So there are some.
It happens often, actually.
Yeah, that does, right? Because people, scientists, researchers tend to use a lot of jargon. So how do you get over, getting stuck somewhere? This can be very helpful for people just starting off, and this is why we highly emphasize on literature survey, and it's going to come in handy. Everyone is writing a report at the end of 2 months, so this is something all of you have to do. So please get used to it. And in next week's journal club, we want to see some new faces. So all of you, please take initiative and do it. So yeah, is Sagar here?
Yes, Itara.
Hi, is there anything else for today's agenda?
Yeah, about 10 minutes, I would like to talk about the research experience, what I had.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so
I can stop my share, right?
Yeah, Shanmukh. Yeah, it was a very nice session, Shanmukh. Thank you.
And
thank you. We actually covered initially what a research paper or a review paper is, and it was really well put. Yeah. So, hi everyone. So, what I would like to say is, research and review are like completely two types of papers, where research paper means the reader, the person who reads the research paper is assumed to have many knowledge, like many much prerequisites, and all the core concepts should have been known. So it is that kind of a view that the reader has to be before reading a research paper. But review paper is written such that even a newcomer or a person who is a beginner, even he can understand. That is something like a review paper. Review paper means a person, if he's writing a review paper, he will write such that even a beginner has to understand that. So that will be his agenda. But research is like, it is very specific. For example, if you see, I'll just take an example which is very good for this. Why? Because Peter Higgs, right? Peter Higgs, he was the person who theorized Higgs boson, and the paper what he wrote to theorize Higgs boson is just 1.5 pages. So research paper need not be very long, but it should be very specific, and it should complete its agenda in a very short duration. So that will be like a basic agenda of the research paper. But review is not like that. Review, you can go how much ever you want, because people take more than 1 month or 2-3 months to read a review paper. But research paper, if you have all the basic knowledge already, you can finish it in 1 month. You mean in 1 week, provided you have the basic or the previous prerequisites. But review, it is very lengthy. For example, I'll just try to share this. Can you all see my screen here?
Yeah, it is visible, Sagar.
So this is a paper written by Peter Higgs. It's just 2 pages. In these 2 pages, Peter Higgs shared his idea about Higgs boson. And these 2 papers, these 2 pages helped him getting Nobel Prize. So it is concise and short, but it gave its idea. And I'm not sure I think I cannot understand these equations, but it fulfilled its duty. But for example, I'll show you one paper which I have written. This is regarding the stellar evolution, like the one which I was written from some project which I did. So here you can see it is 26 pages, and it is very basic. So it just tells what stellar evolution is. If you can see the contents, like how the Big Bang happened, I wrote like in a very short duration. And then slowly I went into stars, their properties, and their stages, something like that. So if you see, this is a review paper which I've written, and I'll also share this. So this is one format which I chose. Like I can tell this is my own format. I didn't follow any template as such. I just wrote what the flow of my thought was. So I wrote this paper using LaTeX. So this is one paper which I've written related to stellar evolution and death of a star. So I'll just quickly scroll this. I'll share this paper if needed. And finally, you can see the citations what I've done. So LaTeX is very handy here. Why? Because it helps us to cite things very easily. You can hyperlink it easily, and it looks a bit decent, and it looks professional, to say. So I recommend everyone to write your project reports or any assignments or anything using LaTeX. I think we shared the LaTeX course with you in the orientation itself. I think March 6th. And there is all the resources that you need to know to write a paper. There are many recorded videos, and there are some hands-on assignments in LMS LaTeX course. So go through them, and slowly you can pick that. And we'll also try to have a discussion session or a doubt clearing session regarding LaTeX, how to use it in the upcoming weeks. And this is one thing. And I'd like to share one more, that is the term paper which I have written. So I have written a paper on relativistic quantum mechanics. That's the unification of quantum mechanics and special relativity. And so if you see, I had a title page which had all the details, and then a small acknowledgement thanking the people who helped me like that, and then an abstract. Abstract has to be a concise, a short description, or it's a paragraph that will excite people or grab their attention. So if you go to any conference or something, you should do something called as poster presentation or submitting an abstract first. So what people will do is they'll just read your abstract. It should be very short. It's a bit lengthy here, but what they do is they'll read your abstract. If their attention is like, if the abstract got their attention, then it's very good chance that your paper would be accepted for the conference. So abstract should be concise and it should give you what you did in the whole paper in just one para. It should be very concise and crisp like that. And then there is something called as contents. So it helps people to navigate so they can see what are the topics present, and then we'll go into the content, like the body. So this is one type of format called as chapter format or report format, which I followed in LaTeX, and it's like this. So it's a bit lengthy. Here it is 31 pages. So this review paper which I've written is 31 pages, and research papers cannot be such lengthy one. Research papers are maximum like 5 to 6 pages like that. And yeah, so all this, even these graphs, what I did, if you can see, everything is through LaTeX. These diagrams, these waves, everything was through LaTeX only. So LaTeX is a very powerful tool, and you can create anything you want using codes, and they're not very hard to learn also. So yeah, any doubts or anything? And thank you for joining this first session of Journal Club, guys. And finally, this bibliography, or you can call it references. So these were the references which I used, and I didn't cite them. Why? Because the whole paper had all the mix of all these papers, so I couldn't cite them, but I mentioned the papers as a whole in the end. So yeah, any doubts, guys?
Sir. Hello.
Yeah, you can call me Sagar.
Okay. Actually, I just wanted to know, are there any research papers for beginners, like who will be reading it for the first time or writing a review? Any simple research papers related to astronomy, astrophysics, which we can just like start reading and understand it, and then start practicing like review or something like that for beginners level?
My suggestion is, if you're starting to read something newly, don't go directly to research paper, rather try to go from basic level, like go to textbooks, build your prerequisites, like have a good basics and foundations, and then when you think you have certain like knowledge or skill, then go to research paper. Because research paper, as I told, they'll be very specific, and they'll be like direct point. They'll come to direct point. They won't go like, if for example, if I just want to tell a wave function, they won't go into probability statistics and then come to wave function. Like they'll just directly jump into wave function, tell this and that, like that. So if you're first time reading something, it'll be tough for you to understand, and it might also make you feel, I'm not able to understand this. So to not have the situation, I suggest you to go from the basics make your foundation strong and then go to research paper.
Yeah, I think, can I just add something here? Yeah.
Yes, Sitara.
Yeah, so if you're feeling that it's a bit tough for you to tackle reading those papers, you should start with some really interesting chapters of some books or some articles that you can find. So I'll send some of those. It doesn't mean you need to master like 400 years of physics to be able to read an article, right? So you can start with some simple articles. So I'll send that for you. Who's the person who asked this question?
Dhruv Nayak.
Okay, Dhruv, I will send you some stuff on Discord.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, so anything else, guys? Okay, so if there is nothing else, we can end the meeting. If you have any doubts, you can ask still.